Today I am honoring my dog, Charlie. He was a wonderful mentor, my best friend, and the most devoted companion I could ever ask for. I had the privilege of spending 11 years of my life with him, and for that I am forever grateful. Charlie was a gift to myself for my 21st birthday, but really I think he was a gift from God. I brought him home when he was 8 weeks old, and I was completely blindsided by his adorableness the moment I laid eyes on him. Unfortunately for Charlie, the novelty of owning the cutest being on the planet quickly wore off when the reality of puppiness set in. I'm not going to lie and say that me and Charlie were best friends from the beginning. We had a rough first year together. Potty training was a nightmare, and I was unprepared to live with someone who was completely devoted to ruining everything I owned. At that age, I could barely take care of myself. So I don't know what I was thinking when I decided to bring on another being that would be 100% dependent on me for everything. I know I lost my patience a lot with Charlie that first year. I remember yelling a ton, and I probably spanked Charlie way more than he deserved. In spite of it all, he still loved me. He never held anything against me. And he never gave up on me, even though I almost gave up on him. After our first year together, things got much better for me and Charlie. Our friendship flourished, and he became my rock. Charlie was the one thing I could count on at the end of every day. He was always happy to see me. He was always ready to hang out and cuddle, and he never judged me for any of my shortcomings. Charlie saw me through my 20s. They were a treacherous time, to say the least. I made a lot of bad decisions when it came to relationships, and I allowed myself to be both emotionally and physically abused. I lost a lot of good girlfriends during this time, probably because they couldn't stand watching me be treated that way. But Charlie was always there for me. He was by my side through thick and thin. He picked me up time and time again, even when I made the same mistakes over and over again. I think he loved me more than I loved myself. When my last bad relationship had come to an end, and I was almost done going through a pretty hard divorce, Charlie became ill. I took him to the veterinarian, where he was diagnosed with most likely having intestinal cancer. Charlie was now 11 years old, and I knew that I didn't want to put him through any extreme medical procedures. So with the doctor's advice, I left him there overnight to receive IV treatment for dehydration. I left not knowing if I would ever see my best friend again. The next morning, the vet's office called, and they said Charlie was doing much better, but that he wouldn't eat for them. I went to pick him up, and I took him back home with me with the specific instructions to try to get Charlie to eat. And for me, he ate. After that, I didn't take a single moment with Charlie for granted. We spent all our time together loving one another. Charlie had supported me through the roughest years of my life. And now it was my turn to support him through the roughest time of his. One day, about 3 months after he originally got sick, Charlie went down into the yard, laid down, and wouldn't get back up, and I knew it was time. I called the vet and made his final appointment. I then called my parents and my best human friend and told them what was going on and asked them to join me. I carried Charlie to my car, and my roommate loaded my other dog into her car, and everyone headed to the vet. There were 5 people and 1 extra dog in the room that day when Charlie passed. I wanted him to be surrounded by love because he always surrounded me and everyone he met with love. The moment Charlie took his last breath, I finally quit crying. I felt relief because my greatest companion and my best friend was no longer suffering. Charlie was put into my life to teach me about unconditional love. And with his departure, he taught me about loss and he still continues to teach me about grief. For I still miss him every day, and I hope that I get to see him again someday.